I tried, as you say, color is a very complex thing because it is not only we talk about color, but it's not really only the color. First of all, color is light. So, and that is actually how color started. So for the people, for the benefit of the people that will watch this later, you guys know me, just so that people know where I'm coming from when I'm talking about color. So I'm the founder and principal of Refresh Organizers and Designers. I co-founded it with Gary Schatan, that is also on our call today and every call we have. We do interior design and home and office organization. Our focus is really to create places that restore energy and balance for our client. And we do that by aligning what the client needs with their space. Imagine space after your skin and your clothes is really the next skin, right? Is what involves you, what is around you, and what really influences you. And some people don't really realize that, but if the space around you is not working for you, it will be working against you because you have to deal with it every day. I've had an international career of 25 years plus. Women never like to go into how old are you, so let's say that I'm vintage on the planet by now, but I'm blessed with having been able to live in so many different countries and exposed to different palettes, sensitivities in terms of color and culture. And I'm an artist and educator. I just love helping people do their thing. So 5 things you should know about choosing colors. If we pass the stage of it's complex, we can also go back to the feeling of how wonderful it was as a child, you know, to be able to choose colors and make drawings. I mean, it's really wonderful that that we still have that memory. Maybe we don't access it always, but it's certainly present with us. Because color is what gives us the salt and pepper around us, right? So today I'm gonna try to talk about 5 aspects as I see how to go about choosing colors. So just do a recap of what a color wheel is and how we talk about color. Also, I would like to address the issue of the different moods that color can evoke. That's a very strong thing. Even if you are not conscious of it, different colors will evoke different moods. Of course, you have cultural aspects in that, but in general, there are certain things that hold true for most cultures. What color can do in a space, and then we get into what your color comfort zone is. So that is something that is very important to understand and also take into account when you're choosing colors. And then a little bit about combining colors and how you can ask questions to yourself to guide that process. So, okay, color wheel. Most of you might have heard of Newton. That is that gentleman that also sat under a tree and started observing gravity. Well, he also observed light, and in light, he discovered color. So he developed a wheel with 12 colors that you're seeing right in the center of the image. And from there, we started studying color more intensely from one century to the other up to the present day. Color has been perceived in different centuries in very different ways. When we talk about red today, it's not necessarily what people perceived as red, let's say, in the Middle Ages. But basically, you can say that you can divide it in primary colors that everybody still knows from, you know, doing their drawings at school, red, yellow, and blue. And then you can subdivide that again in secondary colors and tertiary colors. I'm not going to go into the whole technique and the technical part of it, but so you know that that is how we mostly talk about color. So that is also true when you go into a shop and you try to find colors for your wall. What is an element that is added to this discussion if you're dealing with primary colors, or you go into other gradations of colors that you have? First of all, the color that we can also call a hue. We have a tint of the color when you add whites. So for all those folks that love the more pastels and the more subdued spaces, that is an area of color that you'll be looking without really realizing you're doing that, maybe, or maybe you do, good for you. And then you can go into shades, which are the colors plus black. So you'll see that on the outskirts of any, color presentation. And so whites being one part of the spectrum and black to the other opposite one in any way they present it. And then a tone is usually the color and gray. Also something that people really enjoy. So if you know that, that's why when we talk about color, we all sometimes say, oh, it has gray in it, or it has white, or it's more of a darker to the black side of the spectrum. It's because that is how the color has been made. The mixtures are all standard, of course. The standards is a beautiful story how they produce that. The painting companies that sell paint, every country has a palette. And I had a friend that developed this kind of colors for the Netherlands, which is really cool to know that. And it's very different for different countries. So the other thing that I was talking about is something that is very important to understand is moods. There is tons of information about mood, color, and moods on the internet. I don't know, everyone has their own list. There are some things that come, more often than no. But most of the times we can talk about the yellow being something that is more excitable, red being warm, brown giving more of a base feeling, more earthy, more, green and blue are the colors that you, as Andrea was mentioning, that you want to have if you want to have some more calm into your space. So there are some things that are accepted generally, but what I would like you to do is to understand what color does for your mood, because ultimately it's about your space and about how you feel related to color, right? I can tell you, oh, this will look wonderful. You're gonna use a wonderful hue of yellow. It will look exciting. And you go, oh my God, I don't want that. I don't want any excitement, actually. So you really have to understand that of yourself. It might look like a great idea, but maybe it's not that great for you. It might look nice in the magazine. So just very briefly, you can say you can use schemes. If you like something that is calmer, you'll probably like more of an analogous color scheme. So that means that you're working in a same sequence of colors, so not so much contrasting each other. If you like things to have a little more of a temperament, you'll probably go and look for a complementary scheme. So a famous one is blue and orange, for instance, so the opposite, if you look at the ring, you see the red, opposite the red is the green. So these are called complementary. And then if you really want to make it super dynamic, you'll go to more complex schemes and use more colors in different layers in your space, not necessarily all on the wall. I wouldn't advise that. It's always a combination of what you choose for your walls and what you do in your interior. And if you know how to play with that, it becomes fun, So here I put together a board with only the primary colors. So you see here, blue, red, and yellow. And what it does for space, if you really use it as a hue, just pull out the color really strong. If you use it in a complementary mode, so that you are contrasting, have contrasting elements in your space, or if you try to use it more calmly. So, in the case of the yellow, you can see it's not the yellow as the top of the mood board, but it already has much more white in it. It's much calmer. And if you use furniture pieces that are also more serene, you get some of that quality of yellow, but it doesn't overwhelm you. So in other words, there are very different ways of using colors. Some people will say, yes, I love contrasts. I really love that. I love to have strong contrast. For that room that I think, my living room where I receive people, for instance, it's nice to have something that is more exciting. And maybe in my bedroom, I would like to have something that is more calming. So, which brings me also to functionality. So it's the mood is also associated to the type of activities you have. Your living room might be the place that is your showcase that you invite people to and that you want to have a little more happening. And your kitchen, for instance, as Andrea was mentioning, you might not want to have an egg yellow kitchen because it's too much. But then again, if you have it all in white, you might feel bored. So, so then you're gonna negotiate with yourself what is your tolerance for color and how you can combine things. You can also combine materials. That's another talk, but materials also have color. If you think in terms of wood or in terms of stone or in terms of other things that you add to a space, you're also adding color. So this is the other kind of atmosphere I was talking about. So here you see an image on the left with more of the neutrals towards gray and more of a beige. Beige, I always say beige in English, but it's beige, a beige tone, and on the other side more of a white. But also here you see that it's very subtle. It's combined with other materials, so it gives a little more to that white. So that's also something to take into consideration when you think in terms of color. It's never only the color. It is the totality of your interior. It's the light coming in or not coming in. It's what kind of artificial light you have added. It is a whole combination of factors that will make your interior. And color is certainly one of the most important, but you can have it in different layers. So light is really something that can change color dramatically. In this picture, you see the wall on the back. It's the exact same color, but having direct sunlight on it does one thing with that color, and not having light gives you a totally different information about that same color. So that's also something you have to take into consideration when you think in terms of color. What kind of space is it? How much light am I going to see coming into that room naturally? And how much light do I want to add? Adding light is amazing in combination with color, because light also has color. So you see that you can play with these things, and then it starts becoming fun to imagine what kind of interior you want to do, right? So colors in space, as I was talking earlier, you can have very different ambiances that you are creating and looking for. You can notice that all three images here have a very light background, but they have different elements in it. And it gives a totally different space. I couldn't find the exact same space with different furniture pieces, so this was the best I could assemble. But you get the idea. I mean, you can have one room that you use with a very nice light paint, white and white trims and everything nice and crisp. And you want to have a more modern and clean environment. You introduce in a second and third layers, you introduce colors that will complement that white wall and will give you that impression of clean. And of course, when we live in a place like that, you'll have a little more going on, but for the photo, just bear with me. The idea here is soft, clean, and calming environment. And then in the middle, you have more what you would call a boho, where you have much more textures, much more things happening. Some people really need more visual cues and more visual information. I have one client once that told me, I really need to have all these things out there on the walls, and I want this case full of my things because I need to have that visual information. So that's also important to know about yourself. What kind of visual information and what kind of things do you want to have around you? For some people, the image in the middle is like, yes, that's exactly, it's homey, it's, you know, it's warm, it gives me the idea that I can live in there, you know, with all the little things that I've collected and the beautiful elements and the vases and the colors. That's my interior. And other people will say, no, not at all. I want to have a sophisticated, somewhat more detached with one eye-catching element. I can have my white walls and I put some art up that is contemporary, and I want to transmit a contemporary, more sophisticated look. So that's the one on the bottom. So it's about you expressing your personality. What do you want to see around you? You know, and you have to be very honest about that, because sometimes we have the impression, oh yes, for instance, I love red, but I am not, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't have had one home where I had one single red wall, because for me, red has a different value in how I want to see my environment. It can be art, it can be accessories, but not on the wall. So that's another thing that you have to figure out for yourself. So that's the comfort zone. Here you see different elements with different colors connected to each other, and it gives you an idea of different temperatures that you can choose to have around you, you know, the walls and other things around you. Some people are naturally drawn to certain combinations. And you have to ask yourself, okay, I've been choosing this for all my life. Sometimes I have that with clothes. It's like, you know, okay, I've been using all these colors for so long. Now I want to change. So how comfortable am I with changing to something else, you know? So that is a conversation that is very important to have, because sometimes we have the ambition to go drastic, take my red walls, and sometimes it's not going to happen. You know, it's not going to happen because you're not prepared to take that step. I know in my case, I'm not going to do that red wall, not now. Maybe in another in another space, another moment. So what you can ask yourself to help yourself is, are you happy with the colors around you? That is, of course, the very first question. So if you are not happy, so how comfortable are you with change, what we have just discussed? So do you want for a small transformation, mid-size, or are we going drastic, really reviewing all the walls, doing accent walls, really introducing color? Or, you know, uh, another question that you can ask yourself, which is a very good question, is what's keeping me from changing? You know, because sometimes we are hesitant because we don't trust what we feel. Trust what you feel. If you feel strongly about certain things, or if you allow yourself to really feel what you want, you will come up with a feeling about. Even if you ask someone like myself or Andrea to help you with the colors, you need to know for yourself what your change tolerance is, if you will. So that guides us, that helps us to make it even more the way you want it. So colors, combining colors, fun, fun, fun. Just understand what the basic principles are and how you can combine colors successfully with each other. And it becomes fun again, like when you were a child. So the questions that I want to give to you to consider is, what kind of environment really aligns with you? Do you want something that is calming, Or do you want something that will restore your energy in, and you need to have certain colors around you to make that happen? You know, not every color will energize you, not every color will relax you. So going back to the moods, that is really important to understand what kind of environment really complements you and really aligns with what you need to have around you. Then, as we talked a little bit before, what kind of activity do you have in the space that you are looking to add some color? Because depending on the function of the space, certain colors will work better than others. You know, if you think in terms of bathrooms, for instance, that is what I think Kim mentioned that in the beginning. That is a space where a lot of people really go for a little more color, a little more blue. Sometimes you see violets or purples or, you know, yellows. People really go for some more color in the bathroom, but maybe less in the living room. So, you know, it depends on the activity. If it's a workplace or a workout place, you can have a little more color that stimulates you to do activities like yellows and oranges. You know, it doesn't have to be all over, but you can introduce color to also stimulate you in the different activities or relax you, right? So, and last but not least, what is your change tolerance? That's a biggie one. And after asking yourself this kind of questions, you know, it becomes fun. It's really fun. Color is amazing. It's really the salt and pepper of life. It is the seasoning that you can do, not do without. It's really super fun. So there you have it. Today we talked about a little bit about the technique, the color wheel, the different moods, what it does in your space or can do color, your comfort zone, and combining colors, and the fact that it can be super fun. Never forget that. Don't get overwhelmed.